What up, guys? So in today's video, I'm going to show you a sweep that I'm working on, that I'm really enjoying, that I'm playing with. Many of you guys have watched my Giggler Sweep video. You like that because obviously it's one of my more popular videos. And then a lot of people use the shoulder crunch. It's a very popular move, the shoulder crunch sweep. There's a lot of attacks off of it. So what I'm going to do is show you how to combine these two. So I'm going to show you, one, how to use the Giggler Sweep, or the hip shovel motion is really what I call it, to get into the shoulder crunch, and then you could attack with that. And then I'm going to show you how to use the shoulder crunch, then if the person escapes it, to go back to the Giggler Sweep and use the same hip shovel motion over and over again to off balance the person. This is one of my favorite half guard attacks I've been using. And again, if you like either the Giggler Sweep or the shoulder crunch, then you might like this technique. As always, my lovely assistant, Mr. Adam Wilson, is here to help me. Let's get started. We're gonna get into a half guard with a butterfly hook or a butter half guard, whatever you wanna call it. And the way that I'm gonna play that right now is I'm gonna have this hook in here, and usually the way that I'll transfer to it is I'll go from a knee shield here to this half butterfly like so. So a couple things that are important. This is the way that I'm playing it for this sweep. Now, subtle things. Number one, I don't have my butterfly hook directly against this leg. The reason is that guys that are pretty privy to butterfly sweeps, if this touches them, that gives them a physical cue to start sagging their hips down. So, and a lot of times it makes it a lot more difficult. Whereas if I play with this butterfly hook hidden, this just feels like a half guard. It doesn't have the same threatening feeling as this. I've talked about this numerous times on the channel, right? You want to hide your grips. Like if I'm going to grab a grip, if I really need this grip, for instance, I don't want to grab the grip as tight as I can because it sends off a signal, oh snaps, pull this away. Whereas if I kind of grab it loosely and hold, it doesn't send out the same red flags. Same thing with this. So I'm going to hide that butterfly hook. Now, another thing that's nice about this is by putting this flat on the floor, I'm going to be using this as almost like a makeshift knee shield, all right? And with the foot flat here, it gives me a much more stable surface, right? Whereas if I go for the butterfly hook here and I'm like this leg is, he can push it down a lot more easily than if it's like right here. If you trying to push it down, it's in a much stronger position, all right? So this is the way that I'm playing with the butterfly hook and this half butterfly guard. And then again, most of the time we're gonna be working this inside position. Now here's where the Giggler comes in. We're gonna use the Giggler to off balance. Now we could sweep with the Giggler here. If I trap this grip here and I get any forward like push into me, I can do the Giggler there all day long, right? And again, if you guys want to see the Giggler sweep, I'll put the link down below. But that same hip shovel movement that we're going to be using here. Let's turn this direction so you can see. The hip shovel movement's the important part, okay? So the Giggler is the sweep, but I consider this little movement here the hip shovel. I'm digging my hips up underneath of the person. We're going to be using that to both off balance them and then sweep them. So here's how it's going to work. First off, you could play with the cross collar and the gi. If it was no gi, you could play with your frame. The sweep, I use gi, no gi, doesn't really matter. It's not, again, my jiu-jitsu, I don't try to do anything that I can't do in one or the other, right? I don't really play like a lot of gi grips too much. I know how to use them, but again, I try to make sure everything's transferable. So I can play here, or I can play here, especially a lot of times in gi, no gi, they're pushing in a little bit more, I'll play with the frame. Now the idea is that I'm gonna scoot underneath of them here, and I'm gonna hip shovel. So the way that I'll do this, in the gi, collar, pant leg, my knee shield is going to push into him because I want him to push into me, right? And a lot of times if they're not pushing into me, then I push into him. He gives me a slight push, hip shovel, by letting the knee shield fall out to the side and then pulling myself underneath. Now notice by off balancing him here, his hand had to post. This is gonna open up the underhook. Now why this is important is because I'm gonna get ready to set up the shoulder crunch like this. Against a decent person, he's not gonna simply put his arm up there so I can grab it, right? It's gonna be very tough to just shoot in for this underhook here. So by off balancing him here, I now have the arm. So I'm gonna bring my body into a side crunch to get my head as close to the arm as possible. Now at the same time, he's gonna be shifting his body back to center, and then I'm gonna follow him here. And I'm gonna get this grip here. Now let's talk about the shoulder crunch grip real fast. I've been showing this to my students, and I've done this at a couple seminars, and here's the thing. When you're playing this grip, we're not gonna play the gable grip, okay? So we're not gonna do the gable here. It's gonna be like the butterfly grip. So you're gonna go over top to your wrist. So instead of palm to palm, palm to wrist, palm to wrist. It may not seem like a big deal, but it puts a lot more pressure on the shoulder. Also, your positioning with the grip itself, you want to aim kind of around the medial delt. So if you think of his deltoid here, his shoulders right here, the AC joints right there, that little bone that pops up right there, we're gonna get over top. Now I begin to crunch that in. That feels worse, right? Opposed to if this is sitting in front of him, like this isn't too bad, right? We wanna have that lock right over top of that shoulder, elbows are pinching, and I'm pushing down, okay? That's gonna get that shoulder to really be in a bad spot and be impinged, and now at the same time, he's gonna have to make an adjustment to it. Now here's where the second giggler, second hip shovel comes in. So from here, I've got this position, and again, I could come up and begin to sweep him, or even begin to attack here, push the head down, and then work up. But what we're gonna do here, so a lot of times, they begin to try to pull their arm back. Their hand turns up, and their arm turns just like so. Now, as soon as that happens, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna loosen up enough that his hand can easily track through, and once it's at about the center of my chest, I'm gonna pinch down, okay? At this point, if I'm holding here, he's not gonna be able to remove his arm, right? You can try to. He's not gonna be able to get rid of that, right? So come back into me. So we're here. In most cases, when guys do this, they tend to try to center up and pull their arm out just like this, pinch, and then you can use this hip shovel again by going underneath and sweeping them. Now, if you are new to that movement, it's probably gonna take a little bit of assistance. So here's how you put the training wheels on. When you go for the second giggler, the second hip shovel, you pinch, and then you'll take this hand and you're just gonna grab 4 fingers and just cup the hamstring. I don't like to go underneath the leg because in a lot of cases, if I do this, if for some reason if I'm experiencing trouble, I can push against the hip to help myself over. If I'm hooked here like this, it's a lot more difficult because he can start to sprawl out on this leg here, and now I get stuck here. Opposed to, he can sprawl out on this leg all he wants to, I can still push. And again, this works because we're trapping the arm and the leg on that side. So starting from the top, let's take a look at it. So again, I'm here, I push into him, he pushes back, hip shovel underneath. Notice that my hips went from facing this direction and now we're facing this direction. He's off balance. Now, I'm gonna get my underhook here, and then as we come back, I'm driving up and beginning to get my shoulder crunch grip here. And then I'm gonna put my half butterfly in. You could also, again, do this from a half butterfly before. So again, you can play it either way. Now, from here, once we get ready to go, I'm holding tight. He begins to pull his arm out. As he does this, I'm going to crunch in with it. Now, pay attention to my legs here on the backside. We want to shoot underneath, and I need to be trapping the leg. Think of it almost like a mount trap and roll. If I'm doing mount, I'm trapping this arm and trapping this leg here so I can bridge and knock him over, right? That's a super basic escape that you can use. So it's kind of the same idea. We're trapping that ankle, trapping that arm so that he can't stop, and then from there. Did you just hear it? He said a word. That's your first word on YouTube. He said, sorry, did you hear that? He can't say, I even got the cameraman laughing. All right, so from here, we're hooking, we're coming in, grabbing, and again, as I scoot underneath, I'm rolling here. And again, I've got this like trapped, he's off balance, and we push. It's a very smooth sweep. And if I've rolled with you, if you're in my gym, if I've rolled with you in the last few weeks, I've probably hit that on you. If you've been to some of my seminars in the last few months, I've probably hit that on you at least once. Let's go through it, and I'll just sort of show you what it looks like smooth. You can initiate this movement from a knee shield or from the half butterfly. We'll play half butterfly right now. I'll play no-gi grips right now. So again, I'm off balance from here. Boom, comes back up. Shoulder crunch here. He starts to scoot in, just like so. And without Adam being here, again, that movement with the legs, it's not an extension with your legs, it's just a slight reach and you're pulling yourself under. It's almost like the reverse of a shrimp, right? We're pulling ourselves underneath and our hips are going from this direction, scooting underneath of the person and then turning this direction. It's a beautiful movement. That hip shovel movement from the Giggler Sweep, you will use that all over the place. You will use that in half guard, butterfly guard. You'll use it for leg entries. You can off balance someone, like if someone's passing into your half guard, you hit that really quickly. You'll off balance people very easily. So it's a great movement. I have my guys use the hip shovel movement and sweeps based off of it as a warm-up during our half guard focused months. But again, it's a great movement. But that's a really cool attack if you want to try that out next time you're playing around with it, or if you play that arm crunch and you get people into it and they start pulling that arm out, you can start using this as another option to sweep them back to the direction. So anyways, that is the idea. That's the technique that I've been having a lot of fun with, so I'm just sharing it with you guys. For those of you that have my half guard series, then obviously the half butterfly stuff's in there. And if you guys have my butterfly effect series, then obviously my butterfly stuff's in there. And I'll have more stuff pertaining to some movements and attacks off of this sweep series added to those in the near future. If you guys want details, you can check the links down below. But otherwise, I'm finished. Adam?
Adam.